Really, I can do that really quick. It's leader of our city. It's a mayor and someone who is for all of our citizens. You know, this is one thing that I think that as a mayor, you've got to basically define the direction, and you've got to be able to be the person that can show the direction, not just to the people, our citizens, our taxpayers, our investors, but I think you need to make sure that it is with, you know, the chamber, and which is a clear, you know, direction there. We have to make sure it's with the council, the commission, and the MPC. But in my opinion, I really feel like it's someone who is a true leader that can outline the duties of each, and again, take the ball and make sure that someone has to keep a focus of the city and what direction that we're going. And as a mayor, I feel like that's what I would outline it as. Great question. Yes, very well aware of the budget, and I've broken it down many times. Myself, I have to take you to where I came from to here. I moved back to Shreveport 12 years ago. Prior to that, I was a manager, region manager for Rollins Incorporated. I had 17 operations that I managed. In that, what we did is I hired, trained, developed all of our leaders of each operation. Each one had an operation. It could have been anywhere from a low end of maybe 1.5 to 10 million on each one of them. We had in excess, it was nowhere near 488 million as our budget is, but it was very close. Each year we basically went in, divided up our budget. You know, I am one who, I mean, if you look at our budget now, our general fund is like this. And you know what I want to do is I want to close that gap. I want to make sure that we absolutely go in and we can detail out that budget. Even as a general fund as this, you know, we understand what goes into it, but I think it needs to be specifically earmarked for certain expenses, because if you don't do that, it's a gray area, nobody knows. And I think that is something that we're going to have to do. And I think with the proper CAO that is going to come in, you know, that's going to be, you know, the person I'm going to lean on a lot for our budgeting. But again, as a mayor, I'm going to be extremely involved in every aspect of it, simply because it's my control. But my experience is that I've done it many times. I live with budgets, so it's something that I'm familiar with. I understand our city, I understand our needs. I also understand that we have a right now with our infrastructure, it's going to cost, you know, $1 billion to fix. I've looked at that, I've looked at our cost, I've looked at a lot of things that I know we have to do, and in order to address that, it's kind of like if this was a cruise ship, you know, going down, this is Shreveport, you know, we can't flip it. We can't, it's going in the wrong direction, but we can't flip it in a day. It's going to take some time, and we all know that. It's going to take proper planning, but we have to take, and what I want to do, I'm going to kind of delve off to this just a second, but what I really want to do with our infrastructure is take and adopt a managed street repair program, not just I'm going to give you $1 million and you $1 million, and we run out and all of a sudden you have your project's not complete because you wanted $1 million but it ended up costing you $1.4 million, and we ran out, so now we have cones everywhere. So we will have a managed street repair program is what we're going to put in place. Our consent decree is certainly, we're in phase 2 right now, the fifth. You know, we have 5 stages, you know. I'm very aware of that and what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're funding it. But as far as your question, right now we have 45 buildings that are vacant downtown. We have Fairgrounds Field, which we put $300,000 into several years ago, and we just walked away. We have, you know, now the Bats have control of it. What my plan is not to bring in any arenas or any cross-bayou projects. It's going to be to focus on putting our money back into maintaining and make sure that and I think by putting things first, and when I say putting things first, you know, what I really want to do is clean up our city right now. You know, it's got to be first. Before we can attract investors, nobody wants to move here. You know, why? Because our crime, I mean, we're, what, 18th in the country as far as homicides? today, we're not a safe city. We've got to make sure that we address that. We've got to make sure that we do our infrastructure and address that and get our litter picked up. And it's going to be much easier for the chamber and us to say, hey, we're going to have our economic development person to go out there, and now I can sell you something. I can't sell you something that is broken. And right now, Shreveport is broken, and nobody wants to come here, and that's why Bozier's, I met with Low Walker earlier, and, the thing that they do, they make it easy. We need to make it easy. And but as far as how I'm going to address it, is I really feel that we have got to take, and it's going to have to be planned. I mean, we can't just say we're going to throw a bunch of money and not get anything fixed properly. We have to look at every single thing, and we have to prioritize our projects and make sure that we put the funding into those projects to make sure that we get the most out of it and get it fixed. And when I say prioritize, make sure that it's best for the city, it's best for us, and it's best as a whole. Right now, we have fair share program. I want to address that first. I think our fair share program is broken. I think what we do is, we look at minority-owned businesses, and regardless if it's a man and his wife has owned the business, or if it's a black-owned business, Hispanic, owned business, whatever it may be, I think what we need to do is take it to our communities, and we need to teach them what they need to do and how they need to do, because I think you've got a group of people who control all of that fair share money. And although they are, the ones that we're trying to help, you've got a multi-million-dollar and a very wealthy individual over here taking all the money because he can afford all the general liability, the workers' comp, and all the insurances required for each project. So what I want to do is I want to take and I want to divide things up. Instead of having mowing common ground for the entire city, I want to break it up into areas. And that way, a smaller business person can afford the insurance, can afford everything else that they need to do. So I wanted to hit on that fair share program first and exactly how I want to do that. The other thing is I kind of told you earlier, what I really want to do is clean the city up before we can go in. Not to say that we need to go out immediately, simply because we've got 49 that's going to connect us north-south. We've already got 20. We're close to just about anything and everything that we need in the country right now. So we should be a transportation hub, which I think that we can sell. We can get these manufacturers back into Shreveport. What I really want to do too, and even before we do that, each and every company that we have here today, they have goods, they have products, they have things that they have to purchase in order to do business. You take General Motors. When General Motors was here, they had so many other small businesses that fed them. And when GM went out of business or moved, they went out of business. So, or they moved also. So we lost all of that revenue, not just GM revenue. I want to go in and I want to talk to each and every business that we have and ask them, where do you get this from? We get that from East Texas. Well, what if I could show you somebody here locally you could get that from at a competitive price? Well, sure, we would do that. We need to make sure that we go in and we are talking to all of these people, because they are people who can help our economy, and the more we help our economy, it's going to come and fade right back up to them. Great question. I think that's probably the first and foremost thing of everybody right now. The very first thing I would do is replace our police chief. Probably a great man. I've met him. Nice guy. He's just in the wrong job. You could put me in a job. I'm a great person. You put me in a job of an accountant, I would fail. That's not my job. Put me in charge as a leader, I'm going to excel. We need to find someone who is extremely passionate. If you came into me and you're my assistant, and you come in and you said, Leo, I have to tell you, there was another murder last night. It's going to hurt me here. it hurts me every time I hear it. One of the main reasons why I'm running for mayor, I'm tired of what's going on. But I need somebody, I need a police chief that's just as passionate as I am about our city, about what's going on right now, somebody that's going to let us be us. And when I say that, I talk to people all the time and say, well, I'm moving to Bossier. And I'm like, Bossier's just, you know, a mile from here away, 5 miles away or 10 miles away. Why do you want to just move over there? Well, the Bossier cops don't play. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, everybody knows that they're afraid to go there, that they know if they do anything wrong, that, you know, they're going to get in trouble. Well, we need that same reputation. I do not want to be on national news about somebody abusing somebody, doing things wrong. But what I do want to do is I want to let our police officers police. We have to make sure that we get prosecutions from the people that we are arresting. Deeper dive into that. We have over 500 officers right now, according to extremely good sources. You know, at any given time, we have about 40 police officers on each shift protecting you and I. And you do the math. So, you know, we don't have near the presence that we need. We must go out and we must get presence. How do you do that? You pull people from behind desks and you put them out there on the street. Oh, we don't have a car? Well, you're going to walk downtown. You know, how many times have you seen a police officer walk downtown? I don't think you have. You know, I don't care where it is, but we need to get more people. We don't have an auxiliary police force like we used to. Bossier does. You know, we need to get our auxiliary officers back into play. And once we get those auxiliary officers, you know, we're going to be able, if a car's back at headquarters not being utilized, we can put that person there and they can be on the street. We can utilize them for traffic accidents, for anything that's tying up our officers and make sure that they're out there, again, protecting us. We must have presence. Another great question. You know, being someone who has managed upper level managers, you know, most of my life, you know, the very first thing I want to ask them is, who do you work for? Because I will probably the first day is replace the police chief. The next 2 weeks are going to be evaluating every one of our department heads. And when they come in, I want to ask, you know, who do you work for? If they tell me the city, you may not have a job in the next 5 minutes. If you tell me the taxpayers, then you've got an opportunity to stay here. And maybe if they're watching, that they may know what to say. But the next thing I'm going to do is, what did you accomplish last year for our taxpayers? I want to know that. What do you do on a daily basis? How many people do you have working for you? Do you have supervisors? Yes, I have 5. How many people do you have? Well, I have about 75. Another thing that would be a knockout for me, I want to know you have 74. Actually, we're going to have 75 today because we're hiring someone. That's what I want to know. Do you know your department? Do you know what you're doing? Are you holding people accountable to do their job? We have to make sure that we get the best. I've gone out to other companies and I've helped them. You can all day long, you can go out and we can hire A, B, and C, D players, right? A is the top of the line. If we go out and we hire C players or D players, that's all we're ever going to get. We're not going to be able to get to the top like we need. If we go out there, I'm okay with hiring B players and I can teach, train, and develop that individual to make sure that they can perform. I might go in there and I might find someone who's been failing miserably, but maybe they have the want to, the will to, and I can teach those individuals to do what they need to do. I'm okay with keeping them. But if I have somebody that's doing anything that they feel like they're doing a great job and I see they're not, then that's a replacement. No, I love your questions. You guys have great questions. You know, first off, you know, I've in an attempt, and I've been pretty successful to speak to all of our councilmen and a lot of our commissioners. I try to go to the forums in which they're speaking because they're coming up for election as well. So I've got to know several of them. I want to know them. We have got to have an incredible, not just a bond, but we have to have a clear communication and an insight and a goal of where we're going as a city. You know, if you're not communicating that, you're not doing anything at all. my goal will be to make sure that I am there with them every step of the way. I will be at every meeting. I will make sure that I'm there and I'm guiding, I'm leading, I'm directing. It's paramount that our city moves forward, and we have to move forward with vigor. We have to make sure that we're firm, and fair, but we're going to have to make sure that we all do this. There's going to be times that something may not be great for Broadmoor, but they're going to have to accept it for our city, for our growth. So we have to look at everything that we're doing to make sure, I want to make sure that all neighborhoods are taken care of and our city's taken care of, but again, we have to look at the big picture. As far as working with other companies, I've worked with CEOs, presidents, vice presidents, again, all my life. I met with the base commander a few weeks ago of Barksdale. I'll be having dinner with him in a couple of weeks. My thing with him and what I spoke with him on is what is going on in Barksdale. How can I, as a mayor, get for you to help me, to help our city? And I can't probably go into a lot of detail of things that I learned, but I will tell you that we are, as a community, and when I say community, our surrounding areas, that we're about to get an influx of jobs, which is going to be a wonderful thing. People are going to be moving here. Well, what we've got to do is we can't sit over here on this side of the river, sit behind a desk and expect nothing to happen. We've got to go over there. We've got to be right there with them, have a good relationship with them. So when these people come in, I can have realtors, or I can have my CAO. I can have all the people who are working. We need to be there to guide these people, lead them. So, hey, we've got great schools. This is what we've got. We've got great homes. We've got great possibilities. You can go to Broadmoor in 3 minutes or less. So we need to make sure that people understand Shreveport. Just because they're moving to Barksdale doesn't mean that they need to stay in Bossier. So we must make sure that we provide that opportunity and we speak. But communicate. Legislatures, I'm sorry I'm running out of time, but I definitely think that there's buckets of money in Washington and Baton Rouge we're not going after right now, and we must go out. I'm going to go after it. We're going to have other people going after it as well. I think the most fearful thing for me is how many people we're losing. If you look at the census of how many people were here in 2010 as opposed to 2017, I think we lost right at 9,000 people. If we look at that as us, and let's say that the four of you went out to eat, and the bill was $100. Well, it's going to be $25 each. Well, Tim walks out the door. He's got a call. He's got an emergency. He doesn't pay. How much is your bill? Your bill is now $33.33. So, that's what's happening to our city. We're losing people. The bills are still the same. We still have the same operating budget. We still have the same infrastructure problems, the same buildings that are collapsing. We're getting blight everywhere. So if we do not attack that, and we do not make sure that we can love on our citizens and the companies that are here, we will not do anything. So if it takes tax abatements to make sure that we can, interest people to come here or even to stay here. If we've got companies, you take the AT&Ts, the GMs of the world, you take all these people who leave, I'm going to be over there on my knees begging, what can I do to keep you? Because those are jobs. I'm really not interested in the money that they give me. I'm interested in the jobs and the tax money that we actually get as a whole. My vision is quite simple. I want to bring back the city that we all love. I can remember the Shreveport steamers, the Shreveport captains. I can remember all these wonderful things that we've had, and I want to get it back. I can remember going downtown and not being hassled. I can remember my friends, and I hear this constantly, that they go to Walmart and somebody's over there hassling them. They go to a gas station, somebody's getting hassled. My vision is to provide a place that we used to have. I want to recreate Shreveport in the way we love. I want to make sure that people are safe, they feel safe. We're going to make that happen. The resources are quite simple for that. You know, they're there right now. They're being spent right now, but we're just not utilizing it and managing it in the right way. And I want to make sure that we do that. The 3 priorities would be the crime. I certainly want to do that. The next thing I want to do is clean up our city. One of the reasons that I'm really running today is there was one day I was coming home and I think I hit 2 potholes, and I'm looking around and there's trash everywhere I look, and I get home and I turn on the news and there was a child shot, and I'm like, this is it. This is it. I don't want that anymore. Those are my 3 objectives and my 3 visions that I want to make sure that we clean up. We can easily get rid of, you know, we don't have pride. Every time, to me, somebody throws out a sack from McDonald's or wherever, you know, it's just a lack of pride. It's nothing more. You go to any other city, and I've lived in several, and if there's pride there, you don't have litter. It's truly not an issue. But I do see a lot of vehicles that are going down the road, and they're, you know, trash is flying out. We've got to police that. We've got to make sure. I don't care if it's, you know, a commercial vehicle or a residential vehicle. The law says it has to be covered. We're going to police that. We're going to ensure that. We're going to keep our city clean. We've got to make examples of that. The other is our infrastructure. Changing it over from the way we do business now to having a managed street repair program. Just so we can take, if you can imagine, dividing it up into 8 sections. And we take and we look and we make sure with the city engineer. And I've talked with a couple of engineers to make sure exactly to understand that process. But we would go out and we would look at the 2 worst areas, and the money the first year would go into those 2 heavy areas that needed the infrastructure issues corrected, and make sure they were done properly. Now, we still have to have people who are going out and fixing the potholes and the blow-ups that we hit every day, but those would be my issues. My integrity and ethics was tested yesterday. And I'm going to be as specific as I can, but a little bit vague. I had a couple of businessmen that invited me over to their home. I asked them to come up to the campaign office, you know, or could we meet? Well, we'd like you to come over here. And I'm like, okay. I meet people in their home all the time because if that's what they want, they feel comfortable and they ask me anything, that's what I want to do. Again, I've never been a politician, so I don't know how this works, so I'm just trying to do the right thing. So I go over there, and they're talking about being able to get a lot of Democrat votes for me. And I'm like, well, that's fantastic. You know, we just want to learn a little bit more about you. Tell us about you. And I'm like, okay. And we did this. Well, that was the week before, and then this week, you know, they wanted to meet with me. And I'm like, okay, sure will. So went back over and said, we're going to give you the plan of what we think we can do to help you. And I said, okay. And the plan was that they wanted money. And I'm like, I want to back up with you guys, and I want to tell you what I told you in the beginning, that I'm not a rich man. I'm not Trump. I'm not, you know, I don't have any association with that. What I am saying is I can't be bought. You know, I'm not going to pay for anything. If it's a political favor, it's not going to happen. If my campaign funds suffer, they're just going to suffer. But the facts are is I can only be who I am, and that's all I'll ever be. But that's the last time it happened, shamefully. Yeah. No, I think you guys really covered it all, and I appreciate that. The questions, they were extremely good. One thing I love are questions, and you know, because you know, I think that all politicians, they are polished, and they're the nice, pretty, you know, speeches they've got. They rehearse, and they can get up there and they can just really talk great. But I think when you ask questions, I think direct questions like you guys have, and I love it. That I guess nobody knew what questions were, which is wonderful. I think that you probably find out, you know, the heart of somebody and the knowledge of somebody, and I think that who you got and who you elect. So I appreciate the great questions.